Life is 10% what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. Charles Swindoll. Welcome to the Stitch for Success podcast. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, daughter, entrepreneur, friend, and lifelong learner. I have a love and passion for all things small business. If you are a budding entrepreneur, thinking about starting your own business, or if you have been running your business for a few years, I want to help you. Every week, my goal is to bring you tips, thoughts, inspirations, and education to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. I am so excited to have you join me today. I am truly enjoying bringing you all this podcast each week. Each morning on Instagram, I post a quote or image to hopefully get your day going and off to a great start. So if you have not already, please follow me on Instagram at Stitched for Success. Last week, I had the pleasure of speaking with McBride, CEO and founder of Vitalysys Technologies. If you did not have an opportunity to listen to that episode, I do recommend going back and checking it out. After ending our official interview last week, McBride and I continued to chat, and in that conversation, he actually dropped some additional nuggets of wisdom that I wanted to share. I really want to help people because being an entrepreneur is scary, and especially if you don't have that support system.
Yes.
So like you said, just surrounding yourself with people. And we definitely get into that grind mode where you're down at your desk and you are working. The last thing you think about is like getting outside your four walls and the importance of that, the importance of being around people with knowledge and, you know, not even just the networking, but just the knowledge, you know, so it's so important. But that's the goal, you know, just to have this podcast help people get those foundational skills. And I mean, there's just so many mistakes we've made. Yeah. I just love to be able to help others avoid.
And I'll tell you, one of the, probably the biggest mistake that I made, but I did learn from it. But the biggest mistake was the day one, when I got my business cards, I drove around a 10-mile radius of Gwinnett County and literally just cold walked into businesses, walked in and said, hey, I am an IT consultant with Vitalysys Technologies. Anything you need, please reach out to us. 500 cards through 3 days. I went through about 400 cards, and I just knew. I said, somebody, matter of fact, a lot of people are going to call me. I'm thinking at least 10%, 40 businesses were going to call and say, hey, we need your services. But I got 2 phone calls. And one was, what do you do? I saw this card sitting on my desk. And the other one was, I think we have an issue with a computer. And they had me come over and look at it. And it was an issue with the computer. I billed them like $100. It took 2.5 months to collect that $100. And I remember my wife, she saw how frustrated I was, et cetera. And she said, look, you've got to, or excuse me, one of her colleagues said, you should get involved with your local chamber, get involved with, you know, networking groups. And I wish someone would have told me that initially, saying, hey, and I think as we as men, especially, we don't like to put ourselves out there, you know, and just say, hey, I need help. This is what I'm trying to do. So that first week was an absolute waste of time. And then I got up the gumption a week later, went to the chamber, and then got involved in some other organizations. So, and that was instrumental in terms of growing the business and getting myself out there. So that was a huge mistake, but I learned from it.
It's definitely about relationships, though. You got to build those relationships. People love to shop with their friends. And that's one of the things we say in the stores. Like, once you become friends with someone, they actually enjoy coming to see you or enjoy seeing you come. So it's a pleasure to have that relationship and to build that relationship, and your business will definitely grow because of that. Wow, I didn't know you did that, McBride.
Yes, I was motivated. I was highly motivated, and you know liking and trusting someone, you're right, is going to grow the business. And then, you know, costs and billables and stuff that comes after when they already know, like, and trust you, because we're not the cheapest IT company out there, but I like to think we are one of the most reliable, and we do what we say we're going to do. Our tagline is, our repeat customers do not call back with repeat problems. So that's
Ooh,
something we want to let our clientele know.
I like that. That is fantastic. I also like your statement about the tip that you leave for every year you're in business. That is fantastic. I never thought about that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, that's yes, and just like I said, the dinner. I was talking with a colleague of mine, and he said, "Yes, it's been 2 years since I've been in business. We might do something." And I essentially scolded him. Like, no, you have to celebrate this, because again, this is a journey. It's not a sprint. It is a marathon, and you need to appreciate this. And I want to grow. Having dinners with other entrepreneurs, because we have a unique understanding and perspective on what the journey looks like. And some will be successful, some won't be as successful, but it's a journey, and you need to acknowledge it.
I agree. Definitely need to celebrate every year. And definitely one of my goals is helping people get over that 5 years. I feel like if you can make it past 5 years and just always be willing to pivot, because
Mm.
sometimes you think things are going one way. I mean, like the pandemic, we weren't expecting this. uh,
Yeah.
but being willing to pivot and go more online or whatever the case may be, you got to be willing to make those changes to make sure your business survives no matter what is happening in
Yes.
the world.
Yes.
But yeah, so this has been good. I have truly enjoyed this conversation.
Yes.
And
Yes. Me as well.
I thought I knew like everything about you in business and all that stuff, and I learned something new today. Like,
Well, I tell you, I'm surprised that I'm getting more comfortable in talking about being fired, because I know that's going to help other individuals that were fired. And I like to ask a lot of scrupulous questions. And I remember one of the questions one time I was reaching out and asking my partners, "Have you ever been fired before?" And they were like, "No," and they would answer with almost this disdain, like, "No, I haven't been fired. What are you asking me that for?" And then I would share with them, "Well, hey, I've been fired." And they're like, "No, you own your own company." And I'm like, I went from being fired to owning my own company. So I went from the lowest, because I mean, Monica, I'm not kidding you. It took 5 years, 5 years to be able to say I was fired. I would say things didn't work out. I didn't share it. I didn't share it with Ethan when I told him that I was starting the business. I was humiliated. I was absolutely. It was a very low point in my life, and then I realized, you know what? God broke me down and made me rely on Him. Hence, starting Vitalysys, and now it is incumbent upon me to let especially men, let other men know it is fine to be fired. It's what you do after the fact. That's what, to me, shows that true test of character. I've been able to share it with the kids to let them know. So if and when that does happen, hey, you can pick yourself up and move on. Don't let that be your defining moment. It didn't drive me to drink or doing other reckless things.
right.
I just had to keep moving. But it was very, very tough, because the humiliation took so long to get over that I didn't want to talk about it. But now I do want to put it out there, because I know this can help other men, especially even women, but definitely other men. Because being a husband, a dad, a provider, you're not supposed to be fired. That's not the way I work. And when it happened to me, it was a low point, but I'm just so thankful and humbled now that I don't have to make that, or I don't have to worry about that happening to me and then firing somebody else. I can empathize with that individual, because hey, I've had it happen to me, which I don't do that during a firing. I haven't fired a lot of people, but it's I've been there, to
Right.
say the least.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I ever really knew that story until today.
Hmm.
But I can see that. I mean, you have very high standards for yourself. and you're so disciplined. I'm so
Try.
envious of your discipline. I just love it. Um, and so I get that, I can totally understand you would be down on yourself with that. But out of the ashes, right?
Amen.
Yeah. This additional clip that I'm lucky enough to have recorded has so many elements that you can take and consider within your business. For instance, McBride talked about building relationships and networking. And so there's a few different parts to that, because as an entrepreneur, you definitely want to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Ideally, you want to have people around you who are entrepreneurs. They can share experiences with you. You can bounce ideas off of them. You can bounce things off of them that may be troubling you. And so you want to have peers around you in that respect, or mentors even. But you also want to network. You want to find a group or groups that will help you grow your business, where there may be people who need your services. So it's really important to network. Along with that, you also, once you have clients and customers, you want to continue to nurture that relationship. It's very important to become friends with the people that you are servicing. And when I say friends, I don't necessarily mean you're going out and getting drinks or anything like that, even though that may be the case. But you want to build a genuine and authentic relationship with your clients and customers. Another thing he discussed, which really made me think about marketing and your marketing methods, and figuring out the best method to use when it comes to using your marketing energy and your marketing dollars. He talked about going around in 3 days and handing out business cards, and he found that to be somewhat of a waste of time, actually a complete waste of time, because he only got 2 leads from it, or rather 1, and he spent 2 months, just 2 months just trying to collect on that business. So you want to think about, how do you reach your ideal customer? How should you spend those marketing dollars? And how should you spend your marketing energy? He also talked about the importance of celebrating the wins and successes. And there are going to be times when you close on that big deal, or land that client that you've wanted, or have a successful day in your retail store or online store, and you really want to celebrate those. That doesn't mean you go out and you spend half of the money that you just made. That's not the goal, but you want to just have some way of celebrating wins and successes, or reaching certain milestones, whether it's an anniversary or something that you've really wanted to accomplish. It's good to celebrate those. And lastly, he mentioned pivoting. We talked about pivoting. And one of the things I would say to keep in mind is pivoting is not just something for your business. It also is for you personally. Circumstances simply may not go the way you plan or anticipate. So you have to be willing to make changes. You have to be willing to adjust. The environment may change. Your market may have to change, because your goal is to stay in business ultimately. And he also mentioned, those circumstances not getting you down, not for a long time. They may impact you greatly initially. This pandemic has impacted small business owners and large business owners all over the world. But you have to take that negative and not let it define you. You have to turn it around and just keep pressing forward. So the quote at the beginning of this episode, life is 10% what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. That quote from Charles Swindoll is very true. You have to decide how you're going to react to different situations in your business as well as in your personal life. And you may have to pivot. You may have to turn on your heels and completely change the direction you were moving in. So those are just some tidbits taken from a conversation that wasn't even intentional on being caught or being caught recorded, but I thought it was some very good elements in there, and I wanted to circle back around and share those. Well, that's it for today. I truly appreciate you tuning into the Stitch for Success podcast. If you own a small business, please subscribe to this podcast. Also, if you know someone who runs a small business or someone desiring to start a business, please share this podcast with them. Again, follow me on Instagram at Stitch for Success for daily tips and inspiration. If you have any questions or thoughts, please direct message me or leave me a voicemail message by visiting stitchforsuccess.com. Always a pleasure to have you listen in. Have a great one.